Hello and good evening and welcome you to this episode, and I would like to talk about language and mind. And I should thank you for your wonderful participation by way of viewing it. I've had hundreds of viewers the past couple of days, and thank you very much for your very kind participation in this session. And I would like to discuss about language and mind, the relationship between language and mind. Mind is immaculate. Mind is something that is phenomenal in the sense like it's very, very difficult to understand the depths of it. Language as such is also equally phenomenal in the sense language becomes a very important tool for us to express ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, our behavior, so on and so forth. So language is in fact a very important vehicle that can carry forward our thoughts, emotions and actions in a very meaningful or less meaningful manner. Language is also a tool through which we accumulate knowledge. Mind is a repository of information, repository of knowledge, and repository of ideas and beliefs and opinions. It's all formed through language. We think through a language, whichever language that we are familiar with, whichever is our mother tongue or whichever is our second language. At this point in time, I'm communicating to you through my second language. I'm thinking through my second language, that is English. I've developed it over a period of time. I've acquired it over a period of time. I thought I should share the principles through which I had acquired and the principles through which that I have tried to expend it on a day-to-day basis. Okay, the first and foremost thing that I would like to discuss here is language becomes the expressive vehicle for our thoughts and emotions. It becomes a tool for expression of our thoughts and emotions. This is the first and foremost thing to establish a connection between the mind and language. So what is there in our mind is acquired through language. What is there expressed through language is acquired and stored in the mind, and that is being expressed. So it becomes a vehicle for expression of our thoughts and emotions. And it becomes a very important tool for articulation. Articulation in the sense we are able to kind of put forth our ideas that what we mean to do and act is being very clearly put forward through words and expressions and body language. Right. So it gives a meaningful expression and becomes a very important tool to convey that expression, articulate that expression in the way that we wish to be articulated. And second thing is it involves cognitive development. Mind and language is interconnected and helps us in developing our cognition. The way we perceive our world, the sensory inputs that goes into us, the way we process it, the cognitive processes that we try to develop over a period of time, the way we make sense of our surroundings, it's all part and parcel of the cognitive development. And language plays a very important role because we hear, we see body language, we hear ideas, emotions and thoughts, and we sense, and that becomes part of our knowledge that is stored in the repository that is there in the mind. And mind has got different pockets of memory. I'm putting it in a very crucial, very simple terms. I'm not using the terms of scientific terms, but I'm trying to simplify it by saying that there are different pockets of memory in the mind where different sorts of information are stored. One such is the linguistic memory, where the rules of the grammar, our vocabulary, the syntax, and the way we express ourselves, the thoughts and ideas that are formed through sentences are all stored in the linguistic memory. It's a small pocket that is there where all this is being stored. Be it your first language or your second language or your third language, everything is stored in this linguistic memory pocket. The other one is the episodic memory, whichever event that has occurred, the time, the date, even to some extent the atmosphere, the ambience of the event, it's all stored in the episodic memory and tries to establish a connectivity to through our life. Anytime it could be retrieved, anytime it could be recalled, anytime it could be revisited, and you can think. And all this is framed on the basis of language. So we have a language that describes that episode, a language that describes that event, a language that describes a sentence, a language that has got words and vocabulary to frame the sentence, so on and so forth. So you cannot distinguish language from mind. Both are closely connected, and billions of neurons and neurotransmitters are involved in taking this forward and making us express ourselves and take it forward. Whatever that we try to say and do is taken forward based on these actions that happen in the mind, and language becomes a very important tool. Right. Language also becomes a very important tool for conceptualization. So the world is full of abstractions. There are abstract information here and there which are collected, sensed, joined together into a meaningful, concrete situation or an event or an action. So language becomes a very important tool to connect all these abstractions into one and make us conceptualize and form concepts and form ideas and opinions by connecting the words that represent the events, the words that represent the ideas, and putting that all together into a syntactic format and developing it as a sentence and articulating it. So again, we cannot separate the language from the mind. The third one that I wanted to discuss here is the social interaction. We are social animals. Human beings are social animals. We form our knowledge, ideas, thoughts, opinions, and experiences based on our interactions with the world, be it with human beings or be it with non-human things, or be it with objects. We try to interact with, and most of it is social in nature when it comes to human interaction. So this social interaction, in fact, it develops a kind of knowledge that is there stored again in the mind, and language becomes very important to express ourselves in the social situation and also collect information, store it as a form of knowledge, and recall it and retrieve it to understand and experience it in the way that we want to experience it. Right. Language also becomes a tool for enhancing memory. Enhancing memory in the sense, the more we speak, the more we read, the more words that we accumulate, the more interactions that are there. It is all stored in different buckets of the memory, and it becomes a tool for enhancing our memory. So language, interaction, reading, listening, and watching, observing, everything is very important form of memory enhancement. So it takes us to a different level, different consciousness by storing it and allowing us to recall it whenever it is required for us to recall it. Right. Language is also a cultural expression. In a sense, it tries to share knowledge across different generations. It's only through language that generation after generation culture is being transmitted. It also becomes a very important tool for solving problems. Problem solving is a very important factor in life, where on a day-to-day basis we are faced with problems. We can communicate it to others, share it with others, and try to develop a meaningful solution by sharing it with others. So it becomes a very important tool. Language becomes a very important tool for solving problems. And it also enhances our perception and interpretation. Like I said, we make sense of our surroundings based on the sensory inputs that we imbibe, and the kind of cognitive processes that takes place. So what happens is, like, it enhances our perception. Language, in fact, enhances our perception, our imagination, and also interpretation of the world that is there around us. We think through a language, we interpret it through a language. மொழி இல்லை அப்படின்னு சொன்னால் எண்ணங்கள் இல்லை. இது ரொம்ப முக்கியமான ஒரு விஷயம். மொழி இல்லைன்னா we can't sense what is happening around us and we can't make sense of what is happening around us because we don't have a tool to make sense of. The conceptualization is not happening. The concept formation is not happening. We do not know how to describe certain things if we don't have a language. We can only use a word language. We can't use a verbal language. We can only mimic what is happening outside us and try to say it in a verbal cue, non-verbal cues, not through verbal cues if you don't have a language. And it also becomes a very important tool for emotional expression. Language, in fact, describes each and every nuances in our emotional repertoire. Whatever that we carry as a range of emotions has got a description, very clear description, very clearly being identified and categorized by language. So it also kind of becomes a very important tool for expressing our language. Expressing our emotions. Language becomes a very important tool for expressing our emotions because we can describe our emotions. I feel sad. I feel totally annoyed. I'm angry. Don't try to mess up with me because I'm very, very annoyed with you. So it's like conveying a very typical emotion that we go through. So language becomes a very important tool to convey it. Right? It becomes a very important tool for also identity formation. Identity, அடையாளம், நம்மளோட அடையாளம், நம்மளே ஒரு மனிதர்கள் வந்து ஒரு அடையாளம் அணிவது. We are all framed by different identities that we develop in ourselves, we form in ourselves. Language becomes a very important tool for forming identities. I'm a so-and-so person. I come from this place. I am of this kind of person. I like this. I don't like this. I'm annoyed with these things. I'm angered because of this. All this becomes part of our identity formation. We are such a person and we have such an identity because language has helped us form that identity. So with this, I would like to close this session by saying that language becomes a very important tool for cultural expression, expressing our culture, passing it on from generation to generation. It becomes a very important tool for enhancing our perception, our memory, and also our interpretation about the world. It becomes a very important vehicle to convey our thoughts and emotions. It becomes a very important tool to help us develop concepts, conceptualize and make sense of what is happening around. It also becomes a very important vehicle for conveying our expressions, our emotions in the way that we would wish to convey and label it. And it also becomes a very important tool for the mind to be stored with memories that could be recalled, retrieved and revisited later.